Welcome back from Yerevan, Armenia. I am your co-host, Jon Najarian. The other host is somewhere in the United States in an unnamed location. But we're going to talk about the huge comeback yesterday, folks, from down 600 to making it back into positive territory. What a lift that was. Well, the market's up again today. It's not at the highs, but we've got the 411 for you on today's Rebel's Edge. Pete? I know you can't hardly see that, but that's 80,000 dram. These are 10,000 dram notes.
Jeepers creepers. You know what? I got to be honest with you. Even though I'm Armenian, never knew that the currency was a dram.
Most people don't.
Probably not. I don't think they're doing that with oil all that often.
The greatest people, though, Pete, they've been taking me all over the place. And my God, they've got Coffee pointed it out, but they've got 3 different Bitcoin trading spots here in Yerevan. Meaning you can go in there with cash, just give them cash, they'll give you Bitcoin, or you can go in there with Bitcoin and they'll flip it back into cash for you, whatever. It's a lot more advanced in fintech than I ever thought. Mm-hmm. But it's fabulous. I'm having a great time here, Pete. They're treating me like, these guys are coming up to me on the street. Oh yeah, we see your commercial. I'm like, really? Oh yeah, we see your commercial.
That's awesome. That's great.
Anyway, so to give my ego a rest, we're going to do That's Pete Najarian. I'm Jon Najarian. Next time I come here, I'm bringing Pete. But it does take all day, Pete. It's 21 hours, basically. That's not all flying time because they don't have their own airlines, so you got to fly to like Dubai or Poland or Frankfurt to get here, or Doha, I guess, to get here. Those are your choices. But it's great once you're here, and Mount Ararat, Pete, looks amazing. We took some pictures of it tonight. Go to my Instagram, go to my X account if you want to see a bunch of these pictures, folks, because they are incredible. But anyway, you probably didn't tune in just for that. Maybe you tuned in a little bit for that, but you mainly tuned in so you could get Pete's take, my take on what's going on in the markets here. So let's start off with that macro, Pete, that we always hit at the top of the show. Yep. Macro, I'm going to say, well, that big comeback yesterday, and then a 300-point jump out of the Dow today. Yeah, it was up 400 at one point, but it's not just about Trump's fight with China. Now it's about earnings from Bank America and from Morgan Stanley and from JP Morgan. I mean, Pete, the earnings just keep hitting after hitting after hitting, right?
Yeah, the earnings, the resilience of the market has been absolutely incredible, right? I mean, the fact that we've been able to weather storms probably better than I've ever seen the markets do that. Doesn't mean that we're not going to have some down days. And we pop up, we're up 400. Next thing you know, you blink and it's up 200 or whatever. So we are in a pretty volatile space right now. And I think it's really interesting. But if you're looking for a buoy right now, we've got it, and it's in the earnings. And it starts off with these financials that are just rolling, John. I mean, we're going to be talking about at least one of them today, but the reality is the financial community has done very, very well in the last quarter. And I'll tell you what, the investment banking side of it has definitely been a big key as well, but absolutely crushing it. We've heard from some of the biggest of the big. And it's pretty amazing just how resilient the market can be and fight through, something of what. And the most recent, as you and I were just talking about off air, we were talking about the president and cooking oil. Well, you know what? There's a lot of different things going on right now. The back and forth and the commentary between China and the U.S. is definitely interesting. But at least we have the earnings themselves out there that are giving us much better than was expected. And it was expected to be great, and it's even better.
Well, then what about gold, Pete? Gold continues to be the silver and gold trade that Pete's talked about. Well, all it did was hit the GLD hit 387 and change today, Pete. 387.62. It's holding on to a lot of that. It's up at 386 right now. But that's, by the way, yet another all-time high for the GLD, which means the gold contract pretty much hit another all-time high as well.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just be real brief because it doesn't really take a whole lot, but the volatility index that we talk about all the time, we've talked about how it was stuck in that range, and we've broken out of that range because of all the various verbal conflicts that we're dealing with right now, because earnings season itself has been pretty tremendous. But it's interesting, John. Yesterday we got all the way up near 23, just below 23 on the VIX, pulled back off of that, finished in the 19s. Today we're looking at somewhere very close to 20, but a little bit less than that, down about 8%. And we're hovering around right now that 19 to 19 and a half sort of range for the VIX. Now, that's something to worry about. I wouldn't say yes to that. I don't think it's something to worry about, but it's something to be a little bit, keep your eye on this, because when it gets into those 20s, low 20s, that's kind of that has nothing to tell us really, and you don't really feel comfortable back and forth. If it goes even a lot higher, I think we can actually adjust to that. If it goes back to the lower, we definitely adjust to that. So, but that middle part into the 20s is certainly an area where it's kind of the dead zone for trade, and so that's why I'd like us to not be somewhere between 21 and 25, call it.
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you, Pete. And folks, if you're used to seeing Jeff Garbaz on for the short report and so forth, he's going to be joining us tomorrow because I had a tight schedule here in Yerevan, Armenia. And so, Jeff, thank you for your patience, and he'll be on with us tomorrow, folks. I know he's got a lot of fans out there, Pete. I don't want to let him down.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at some stocks, starting with Dollar Tree. Now, we've had unusual activity in Dollar Tree, Pete. It was up as much as 9% early on. We all know what they do. If you need Dollar General, Dollar Tree, some of the alternatives that people might turn to when things aren't so great, perhaps for them economically. Well, Dollar Tree surged. The company's profit forecast exceeded analyst expectations. But the American consumer is still apparently doing pretty darn well, Pete. And we'll get to that when we get to Bank of America and Morgan Stanley. But what did you think of the Dollar Tree report?
Yeah, I thought the report was great. I mean, you just go through each and every little category there, and the outlook looked strong as well. So it popped. It was up as much as 8%, and then it just kind of gave some back. And you know what? That's always one of those difficult things. Are people just taking profits from being long and expecting this to have a pretty good day and then trying to get out of some of that? I mean, that's certainly a possibility. But when we see some of the growth that they talked about, the earnings growth that they talked about into the high teens, I would say they're positioned very, very well. And it's something, the other thing that stood out for me was just the share repurchase, John. That's been something that's been big. When companies start to talk about that and implement that, that usually gets an extra little bit of a jump as well. But because I think of the backdrop that we've got today, I think that's probably what's hurting this one, at least for now. And we'll see if that's going to be the case. Last I looked, it was still in positive territory. It was up maybe 1 or 2%. So we'll see. But they certainly had a good quarter when it comes to what they were able to produce and what they talked about from the outlook perspective.
Well, then we've got, Pete, a little Bunge Global, which is they had some pretty significant changes to their reporting segments. So it was kind of difficult, if it's the same quarter to quarter to quarter, it's easy to match and say, okay, they seem to be going in the right direction, or they seem to be going in the wrong direction. Well, initially, this one was up 5%, then 7%, then 9%, then 10%. Now they're up 12%, Pete. So some of the reason they have a little trouble with that, folks, is their merger with Viterra. So obviously they hadn't been working those numbers into their numbers previously, but now they are. And whether it's processing seed oils or whatever else in the ag sector that Bunge does, they're doing pretty well. And one big firm, Pete, said there's still a buy, and that as soon as that hit the tape, that seemed to really drive the market to the upside.
Yeah, and it's been, I mean, you can see by that reaction right there. I mean, from 80 all the way well above 90, 92. That's a big jump. And I think that was a lot of that had to do with what they were talking about into the future because of what's going on with this this merger that they've got going on with Viterra. That's something I think that they're saying right now, John, that they're going to have minimal dilution. And I think that's the key element here. If there was a lot of dilution, I think people would have said, well, you know what, we'll wait a while for this one. But the fact that this is a great merger between the two of them and it's not, stepping on each other's toes, I think that's what's really why this stock is reacting the way it did. And that's a big spike to the upside, like you just showed on that chart. I mean, 12%, pretty nice big move, I would say, for this company on these earnings. And then this is kind of the backdrop that we were thinking. We thought that earnings season could be something that could actually give a bit of a boost and maybe a little bit of a solidity to what the markets are doing right now. But I think this one is a great example of that. I think Dollar Tree is still a great example of that because we're looking at everything that we went in the past that we were talking about, so many worries that we might have had because of the tariffs and everything else. And so far, so good when it comes to the earnings, John.
Well, and then we switch gears, Pete, and we go on over to Bank America and Morgan Stanley.
Yeah.
I'll kind of throw them both in there, Pete, because Bank America, they're up, 4.5%. They've been holding on to that gain all day. They're up 19% year to date. It's a $386 billion giant. And one of the things that they talked about, Pete, was, charge-offs. Banks always like to talk about, okay, as far as if they do offer credit cards and so forth, are people late? Are they not paying on their credit cards and so forth? And in this case, it seems like both Morgan Stanley and Bank America really hit the ground running. And you've been saying it and saying it and saying it on this show where you've been saying, just look at Goldman, just look at Morgan, just look at Bank America, just look at any of these big investment banks, because there's been a lot of M&A, mergers and acquisitions this year, and you were absolutely right. It's really driven the revenue at all of these banks.
Yeah, it's been impressive, John, and it's been one of the drivers, just one of the drivers. I mean, you look across and you look at what Bank of America put up or Morgan Stanley put up or Wells Fargo put up yesterday. I mean, yeah, it's impressive. I talk about the investment banks a lot, and John, the revenue was up 43%.
Oh.
These are big companies, right? And when you talk about those kind of percentage gains, I think people have to just take a look and take a step back and go, my gosh, that's absolutely amazing. Their revenue was up 11% as well, John. The credit losses, and we talked about that yesterday when we were talking about Wells Fargo, the credit losses are minimal. They're not nearly as high as they were expecting them to be. So it just seems to me that in all ways that they're just clicking along and doing a great job. And we're seeing, like you said, a lot of M&A. We're also seeing a few IPOs here and there. And so, every time you and I see any kind of a merger type situation going on or buyouts, acquisitions, however you want to frame it, we're always looking at which banks are there. And you know what? It's been Citi, it's been Bank of America, it's been Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. And I think that it makes a heck of a lot of sense that these guys are doing as well as they are. And they are. And they're showing incredible growth year over year as well. So not shocked at all to see what Bank of America was able to put up today, or Morgan Stanley for that matter.
Well, the charge-offs or credit losses that they have declared, Pete, is down from 1.5 billion a year ago to just 1.3 billion now. So again, somebody tell me about how bad the economy is under this new president. And I'll tell you, you're either not looking at the data or you're a liar. Because if their numbers, Pete, are down $200 million in charge-offs, because charge-offs are bad, 1.5 billion was what it was last year, and this year, 1.3. Mm-hmm. All right, let's wind it up, Pete, with maybe Abbott Labs. What do you think of this one? They reported Q3 results Total revenue, 11.37 billion. That missed analyst expectations, but only by a little. But sales were down 6.6%. And that appears to be, Pete, one of the reasons that some people, whether it was short-term or long-term, are hitting the exits with their elbows.
Yeah, absolutely, John. I mean, the diagnostics, that declined. You said sales, that dropped 6%. You know, the guidance was lowered. I mean, across the board, and that chart sort of speaks for everything that we were just talking about. I mean, it was up there trading close to $138 a share. Now it's about $10 lower than that. So there's definitely a move to the downside off of Abbott. Does it mean it's huge in trouble? I wouldn't say that, but you know what? Their total revenue was a small miss, not a huge miss, a small miss. So, you know, there is some negatives to this one. That's why it's down today. I don't think it's something where you have to go running out there and, you know, with your hair on fire or anything like that. But I do think that, you know, when you look at this, they disappointed. And if you're going to disappoint, even in what looks like another good start to the earnings season, this disappointment coming from Abbott Labs is going to get hit. And it's not getting slammed. It's not getting, you know, it's not down 20% or something like that. But for all the right reasons, it is down today, 3 or 4%, something like that. So makes a lot of sense to me, John.
Yeah, and I'm, as I usually am, in agreement with you on, I wouldn't throw this one out because of a very slight miss, 11.36 billion versus 11.4. I don't think those last little digits make that much difference for these guys, Pete. Right. So I would say, you know, if you're somebody who's been looking at Abbott and you wanted one of these big pharmas or whatever drug companies in your portfolio, I think picking them up on dips like this is a good idea.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, you know, I guess it's a day that ends in day, as they say, Pete. Because if you want to see something interesting, something fun, something inspiring about an NFL player, and there are obviously a lot of them that are inspiring and great.
Yep.
But this guy, Baker Mayfield, he takes the cake. And Colin Cowherd, Pete, on The Herd, had some interesting things to say about him. So let's give it a look and a listen.
Yeah.
Quality that Baker Mayfield has that I wish everybody in America had. Not everything has to be perfect. He never plays the victim. It's like, what do I got to work with? All right, let's go. Baker's missing everything. He's on the road, and he's willing his team to win.
That's excuses.
What a franchise quarterback is. That's what an MVP looks like. Baker willed his team to a W. He's missing Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving. Emeka Ibuka got hurt in the game. Baker Mayfield was the difference.
You know what? Everything he said is right and true, and it's great. And you know what? This is a guy, John, who's turned around his personality as well as his football acumen. I mean, the guy, as a football player, you know, he was stuck in terrible teams for a while. He went from Cleveland, he did Carolina, he backed up here, did this, all the different places, and he found a home in Tampa. And you know what? He matured. And he's a much better person, you can tell. He's a father that's very excited about his, you know, child. So, I mean, you know, it's really cool to see a guy like this who basically people were trying to flush down the toilet, stand up, and all of a sudden now everybody's talking about MVP for all the right reasons. All those injuries, John, and he didn't even include the offensive line. I mean, they've had offensive line issues all year so far. So, really, really interesting. And I tell you what, he's about as likable a guy now as he was unlikable about 6 years ago. So I give him all the credit in the world for the flip that he's made in this whole thing. It's pretty cool. And you know what? I'm a Buccaneer. I love the Bucs, and I love seeing them have some success and having a player that everybody's talking about this year. It's pretty cool.
You know who else was talking about him, Pete? And I almost put that video up. Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Tom Brady said, okay, here's my top 5 teams in the NFL. And he said, and I got to say, my number 1 team, because he's the number 1 player, in my mind, he's the MVP right now.
Yep.
And it's Baker Mayfield.
You got to love it.
You know, and that's coming from the guy that he was the last guy to take Tampa Bay to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl when he and Gronk did it. It wasn't just Brady and Gronk, but I mean, they were a big part. They were a part of it. So I tell you what, that when he plays, I think everybody tunes into that game now, Pete.
Yep.
I mean, there are other games that we should be watching, and I know you want to mention some of them in sports, so I won't steal your thunder, but there are some really outstanding teams that no one had predicted would be this good.
Right. And I think people thought Tampa would be good, but not quite this good. And they play really, really well, and you can see that there's a great vibe between the coaching staff and the players too. I mean, so they've got a lot of things going. They got the crowd support there in Tampa. It's a great city. It's a great city to play football in. College football, John, we've talked about this one. And Penn State, everybody already knows they fired their head coach. Now what are they going to do? He could potentially make $56 million to just not be coaching at Penn State. But there's some interesting stuff in his contract, John, that has him. He's got to pursue jobs or else kind of a thing, So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. I heard them talking about it on the radio the other day, and I'm like, God, I've never heard of anything like this in my life, but they should. And I'll tell you what, that would be something to try to help some of these schools out when they overpay, or teams out in the NFL overpay for players or whatever that are no longer there, or coaches that are no longer there. So I've got the short list right now in front of me, John, just 3. A lot of people have far more than I've got in front, but Curt Cignetti, he's at Indiana. He's probably considered right now the most arrogant, but also the best coach in college football. He has turned Indiana into a football team, right? I mean, John, they're number 3 in the country. When's the last time we've seen Indiana 3 in the country? Never is the answer.
Never.
It's never happened. And I'm not even sure on top 10 side of it. But in any case, I don't know for sure on that. But here's the thing that they did that was really smart. They hired him. And after seeing just a few games in his first season, which was just a year and a half, 2 years ago, he signed a new contract for 8 years, $72 million. So Indiana knew what they had, John. They went out, they've got a good friend of ours, from the Shark Tank, who might have been one of the guys who put in a pretty big chunk to be able to keep this coach there. I think it's pretty cool. And what they've been able to do and how they've been able to do it at Indiana is absolutely something that Penn State kind of needs at this point in time, I think, for their program. But the thing is, and you had asked me right before we came on, well, why would he take the job? And I'm right there with you. I know that they've got history. We all know that. Penn State's got a lot of history, obviously Paterno and all the rest of it. But you know what? Does that mean that he's got to drop what he's doing at Indiana, or just continue to build at Indiana and build that thing into his own? And that's the way people really look at you as, hey, that guy's a damn good coach. And I put him in that category. Now you go to Nebraska. Do they get Coach Rule? Why would he leave? Well, because he played linebacker at Penn State. That's why he might leave. And he kind of left it open yesterday at the press conference, John. They were asking him all these questions. They're number 25 in the country, which, for Nebraska, at least they're finally relevant, right? They're 5-1. They're playing pretty good football. It ain't the black shirts, though, John. They still struggle on that side of the ball, but the offense can score some points. Receivers, quarterback, running backs, offensive line, tight ends, all of it. And then there's a guy over at Ohio State, Brian Hartline. The reason that makes kind of a lot of sense, John, he's not a head coach. He's the offensive coordinator. And if you go back and you look at what happened with Dan Lanning, and who's the head coach at Oregon right now, he was working, John, at Georgia. And that was where he had gone. They went to a national title game. Then all of a sudden he's out there and he gets a job as the head coach there. Kirby Smart's at Georgia. Where did he start? He started at Alabama, of all places, right? He was there with Saban, and then he crossed over and became the guy at Georgia. So what that means to me is Ohio State, that one makes the most sense because, A, he's not getting paid what Rule's getting paid. He's not getting paid what Cignetti's getting paid. So if Hartline were to leave as the offensive coordinator of Ohio State, it makes all the sense in the world to me that now he gets to forge his own way at Penn State if they're able to convince him to come there. I mean, that's not exactly a given either. But What do you think about this? There's also a kid who played at Penn State who's the D coordinator at USC, by the way. But you know what? I don't think just because you played there, that's the only criteria that you're looking at. I think you got to look at somebody's body of work. And I think those top three that I've got, and I like the Ohio State, all he's done, John, is gone out and find a new quarterback every year. They just find a new one and then they play him for a year and they get another new one and they play him for a year. And wide receivers. What university puts more wide receivers into the NFL? Maybe LSU, maybe?
I was going to say, only LSU.
Yeah.
LSU would be the only team that has as many great ones.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who's fast and up and coming, Pete? Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Ole Miss. I mean, you look at some of the players playing around the league right now and see how many of them might have played down there for your friend.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them. And they're pretty damn good. So, I would agree, though. Head and shoulders, Ohio State wide receivers better than any other group of wide receivers. And they just reload.
Yep.
And they don't transfer, really. They stay. They might leave after 2 years, but if they're going to the pros.
Yeah.
They're not because they are so good. And they catch with their hands, not their bodies. They run great patterns. They're great route runners and all that. So I agree. I think this guy'd be a wise choice and a choice that, Penn State probably needs because, if they just go internally, Pete, I think it could be 5 more years before they're on top again.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, they got to make a move. I think it's outside of whatever they've got there, but I think Hartline makes so much sense. And you know what? They're going to throw a hell of a lot of money at him. And if he doesn't want to move now, then what? When does he want to move? So I think the opportune moment for him to leave would be, whenever that is. Maybe it's the end of the season or however they do that. All right, NFL, John. You and I are probably on the same page on this one, but I got to throw this one out to you because I was just looking around at some of the different storylines and this, that, looking at the Buccaneers that we just talked about and some of the struggles that some of these teams are having. Baltimore struggling in a big way, right? They're 1-5.
No defense.
No defense. The quarterback gets hurt. He might be out for a period of time, maybe even the season. You never know. But so there's a lot of Buffalo's not playing up to what we expected, right? I mean, that's another one that where you're looking around. You could say the same thing about Philadelphia. You could say the same thing about a lot of these different places. San Francisco, the Rams. There's some great teams out there, but there's not too many that just really stand out, except one, the Indianapolis Colts. And it's just amazing to me, John, what they've been able to do, because when I went through their roster, most of them, not all, but most of them were draft picks by Indianapolis. So these guys know what they're doing. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings, John, went out this offseason. They stole 2 offensive linemen from the Colts, right? 2 guys who, by the way, were hurt, and they still gave them a hell of a lot of money. They brought them up to Minnesota. You know what they've done so far? They've gotten hurt. And they've gotten a quarterback hurt. And you know what? Who knows after that? So anyway, I just bring that up because this is a team that in their 5 games, they smoked Miami. They beat up on a really good Denver team. Everybody's talking about Denver. They kicked Tennessee in the teeth, which everybody else has done. They lost to the Rams, who's underrated team, by the way. They got a really good defense with the Rams, and I actually like the quarterback. I don't care how old he is. I think he's damn good. They beat the crap out of the Raiders, and then they beat the Cardinals. So they're sitting at 5-1 right now. You've got Daniel Jones at quarterback. He's run for a couple of touchdowns, actually 4. He's thrown for 8 touchdowns, John. Only has a couple interceptions and a couple of sacks. He's only been sacked 5 times. And that's when I went back and I looked and I go, hey, well, the entire offensive line are guys that they drafted those guys. They didn't pick them up in free agency and all the rest of this kind of crap. They lost the 2 guys to the Vikings, and they just line up and the kid's not getting sacked. That says a lot about that offensive line and Daniel Jones' ability to get rid of the football. Plus, he's 6'5". He can run like a deer. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's probably arguably right now one of the best, if not the best running back right now in the game. So you look at the offensive line, the defensive line, and what they do. They're number 4 in defense with points allowed. I mean, enough said. Is this the best team in the NFL? What do you think?
Well, I like Danny Dimes at quarterback, Pete,
I love it.
because you know that's his other nickname.
Yeah.
Of course, Indiana Jones. But I mean, so the kid is 28 years old. He came out of Duke, didn't do anything for his prior teams, Pete.
Right.
And it's not like he's making big mistakes. He's thrown 3 interceptions. He's got 8 touchdowns. I don't like the touchdown to interception ratio being quite that high. But on the other hand, I like the idea that he's not making big mistakes at the wrong time in the game.
Right.
When he has to take a sack, he'll take the sack. When he has to throw it out of bounds, he'll throw it out of bounds. That is why they're winning as big as they're winning, Pete. Now, you already said the running back, and he's Jonathan Taylor, huge reason that they're doing this well. But they also happened to draft the tight end that the Bears should have taken. Don't know what the Bears were thinking. They got a good tight end, I'll give them that, but they didn't get this kid. And all this kid's doing is basically setting records for receptions for a tight end. So I love the tight end that they've got, Pete Warren, and I think he's just going to go down as, probably close to a rookie all-pro this year. What do you think?
Absolutely. I watched him last year, John. He's big as hell. I stood next to him on the sidelines for a Gopher game, and I'm looking at the guy going, wow, that's a big tight end who's athletic as hell. As a matter of fact, the Gophers had Penn State beat, and they had a fake punt. And who do they get the fake punt to? Well, the tight end. Why not? Just put him out there and let him catch the ball. I mean, so he's probably the best rookie tight end. And I'll tell you what, the talent he had in college was amazing, and I think he's brought it to the pro level. And there's a really good reason why Dimes is throwing him the ball as much as he does, because you know what? The tight end's always open, as I've always said, and this kid's got great hands. So, why wouldn't you be feeding him the ball? I think it's smart.
Yeah, he's got 29 catches this year, Pete, 370 yards. 29 catches is 17th in receiving this year, Pete. That's not bad for a tight end.
Not bad.
2 touchdowns. Yeah, that's not phenomenal. But like I say, the quarterback's not making mistakes, and he's hitting this kid over and over and over again. Keep in mind, what are we, Pete? 6 games in?
Yep.
And the kid's got, he's averaging 4 or almost 5 a game. That's what you should be doing. And that's why, like you always say, if you're going to hit the tight end 4 or 5 times a game, you're going to frustrate the linebackers. You're going to get the D-backs off your other receivers to help out on that tight end that's getting the ball so often. And guess what? That opens up the wide receivers or your slot. It opens it up. So I like this scheme that Indiana has put together, the Colts have put together, Pete. And I think they're the right team at the right time. 5-1. Yeah, they look pretty damn good.
They look good. It's a long season, but they look pretty good right now. There's no doubt about that. And Dimes is dropping them, man.
Danny Dimes. By the way, I'm giving a shout out to my brothers over at the AGBU, Pete. This is the Armenian General Benevolence Union. They were taking me all around the city today. I'll tell you guys all about it, and I encourage you to check out the Dr. J, because the Dr. J is one of the ways you guys can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. He is at Pete Najarian, last name spelled Najarian, and I'm at Jon Najarian. We're going to be posting up a lot of stuff. We got Andrew over here, Pete. He's been over here before I got here.
I know. He and Mary got a thing.
Yeah, I think they might. Anyway, thanks for joining us today, folks. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Pete and I will be back, and we thank all of you for supporting the show and joining us today. See you tomorrow.
See ya.